So, Harry,
Yeah.
what is the worst or silliest argument or fight you've ever had with one of your many, many siblings?
Well, where do I begin? I think probably going to go with the time that is, it's not quite an argument or a fight, although I guess it is a long-term disagreement I got with one of my sisters.
Sure.
That, yes, it has spurred many an argument. There was once a day in primary school, maybe early high school, where I woke up in the morning and for whatever reason, I couldn't stand up.
You couldn't stand up?
I couldn't stand up.
Like you physically could not stand up?
I physically couldn't stand up.
Okay.
I didn't realize this until I stood up out of bed and then I just fell backwards.
How old were you?
My own weight. I don't know, I think early high school sort of age.
Okay. It's concerning.
Yeah, it was concerning. I had no idea what it was.
How long after the time you got that really bad concussion was this? Because I've heard that story before.
I don't remember.
Okay.
But unfortunately, this moment when I stood up out of bed and then fell backwards, not able to stand up, my sister saw me. And so she thinks that me standing up, seeing her, and then falling back down was like, oh God, somebody saw me. I better pretend that I can't do this and keep up the facade because I wanted to get out of school.
Okay.
That's the idea that she's got in her head.
I mean, that's kind of what the conclusion I would draw as well, knowing you as I do.
It's a fair conclusion to make.
Yeah, sure.
I don't remember what was going on at school at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what I missed, but I did have 2 days off. I'm not sure if Mum took time off work, but she was available anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually took me to the hospital and I got an X-ray. They couldn't work out what the cause was. Genuinely, it was a thing.
You just had 2 days when you just couldn't walk.
I could walk by the end of the first day, but then at the end, but then when I woke up the next day, they'd seized up again. Not as bad. I know it sounds like bullshit, but this is real.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
So you hadn't done anything really strenuous. I mean, it's you. How strenuous would it be?
How dare you?
But there's no reason why you might have seized up. You just randomly woke up at the age of 14 or whatever and had lost the ability to walk for 2 days.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was really weird. And to this day, I still don't know what it was or how it occurred, but that's as much detail as I can give it. So there's not really much argument that I can make to say that I've not just made the whole thing up. Mm-hmm. So this argument has just gone on.
Because your sister refuses to believe you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah, sure.
But it's the truth.
Okay. And has this ever happened to you since?
Nope.
Wow, that's insane.
I know it's remarkably bizarre.
That is a very strange one, yeah.
Yeah, and it's incredibly difficult to argue the validity of it. But
yeah, I think I might be on Team Sister. Yeah.
God damn it.
Some films are fine just the way they are. Other films sometimes take it way too far. But really, how bad could it get? Let's go beyond the box set.
Welcome back, everybody, to Beyond the Box Set, the podcast where today we are pitching prequels, sequels, and spin-off ideas to You Can Count on Me. We'll also be pitching some drinking games and hearing from our listeners with the ideas they have posted on our Facebook and Twitter. But first, we're going to talk about some of our favourite moments from the original movie and catch you up with a bit of a plot summary. I am Harry, the host with the most reliability.
Sure.
Got anything to say? No? Okay. And joining me as always, the host.
Oh, because we can count on you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I can count on you for most things. You've nothing if not predictable. So yeah.
Thanks, yeah. And joining me as always, the host with the most tardiness, is John Lucas.
I accept that. That is part of who I am. That's fine. Yeah.
Yep. You have been late to many a podcast here, and you live here.
It's true. Yeah, it's my flat, and I'm still often later than you. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, You Can Count on Me.
Yes.
Why do you pick this?
Well, I just thought, I would take a bit of a risk. I thought, we've been doing films recently. We just got off a season of pop star films, and I thought, I'm just going to do a film. It's Oscar season as well, and it was on my mind, films that are. This film was nominated for a lot of Oscars.
Seriously?
Yes, it was.
What?
Yeah. Are you surprised by that, really?
Genuinely?
Okay. No, best screenplay, best actress, best director. I think
she was nominated.
Yes.
Hell.
Okay, well, I'm getting a sense of how you feel about this, but it's a film I really like, and I know it's not necessarily the most obvious choice, but I thought I would. I think that this film has a lot of good comedy to it. I think it's a very likable film, a very charming film, and I think it has an open ending that could feed well into a sequel. So I thought, you know what, let's just put it out there and see. Let the cards fall where they may.
Sure.
So, what did you think?
I disagree with everything you said, other than the word film.
Okay. I mean, there were warning signs. You did text me last night mid-watching with asking why on earth I'd chosen this.
Yeah.
But it did transpire you were only half an hour in. And I did say to you, look...
I was 40 minutes in, and I hadn't found anything that even felt like an attempt at a joke. Not even like something that I could see was trying to be funny or... was inappropriate or just I didn't find funny or anything like that. I couldn't find anything that felt like it was comedy.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's
so I genuinely, when you said like I think it's hilarious and it's got great sequel potential, I was genuinely like thinking, are we actually watching the same movie? Because I really wouldn't be surprised if I've just downloaded some dodgy old movie that just didn't do very well.
Sure. Well, I don't think this film necessarily has like jokes. It's not like funny in the sense that a Jim Carrey film is funny or whatever. But
I got its humor by the end because literally the minute after I texted you, there were like 3 jokes like right after each other, and so they're not like a joke where it sets up like a scene and then there's a punchline or something.
No, it's not that kind of film.
No, but it didn't land for me, and I'm genuinely surprised that this was an Oscar-nominated film.
Really? Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, did you actively dislike this movie?
For large parts of it, yeah.
Okay, why so? What did you not like about it? I mean, it's a valid opinion. I'm not criticizing the opinion, but like...
it didn't have a lot of a plot going on, which sometimes can work to a film's benefit.
Sure.
But generally, if it does, it needs just some more, like... I don't know, just like some strong acting or something in it, and I didn't think anybody was bad. Like nobody was bad in this. Everybody was absolutely fine, but that's it. They were all absolutely fine. There was nobody who was entertaining on screen, I thought.
Oh, I really strongly disagree. Like I'm really surprised by that, honestly. Even if you didn't particularly find the film to be to your taste, I think the acting in this is incredible. I think it's 2 of my favorite performances of all time. I think maybe a lot of it comes down to. Like, I really do have a soft spot for films that are kind of dry but are about real life in many ways. Because I mean, this is a very realistic film in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I think it's very much about... You're right, the plot is pretty... It's pretty thin. Like, in terms of events that happen, a brother goes to visit his sister. They have some fights. Nothing major. There's no... Apart from the very beginning, nobody dies. There's no big action set pieces. It's just a slice of life.
Yeah.
But I just think the dynamic between the two of them is so realistic and so lovely and heartwarming and frustrating. And I think it's a great film about the complexities of a sibling relationship.
Yeah, I agree. I got all that from it, but I was sold as it being like it said dramedy.
Yeah.
So I was expecting like, okay, it's kind of dramatic, but also it's going to have some lighter moments, and it's going to have some jokes, and I'm going to laugh at it, and I just really wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I could see this just being a swing and a miss for an award season.
This was voted one of the 20 best films of the 20th century.
Really?
Yeah. It's not just me. I'm not saying
came out in the year 2000, so 21st century, but whatever.
But sorry, that's what I mean. Of the past 20 years, there was a BBC poll, and this was in the top 20 best films released since the year 2000.
Wow.
So I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. It's all opinions, but I'm not alone in this. This is a very highly regarded film. Yeah. No, that's fine. If it's not for you, that's absolutely fine. I just think this film is a very nice depiction of like complicated sibling relationships. And there's so much love in this film. There's so much love between the two of them, but also they drive each other crazy and they both make terrible decisions. But I just think it's. Did you find this film to be depressing? Was that a problem you had? Did you find it to be because like obviously this is from the same director as Manchester by the Sea, which I would say is a film I would never choose for this podcast because that film is depressing.
Yeah.
That's a film you walk out and you're just like. I mean, I think it's a great film. Don't get me wrong, but you walk out of Manchester by the Sea and you're just like. You know, it's so much. It's the same reason I would never do like Sophie's Choice. You know, there are some or Schindler's List.
Yeah.
There are great films, but they're not for this podcast. You know,
Yeah.
there's no fun to be found. But I think this film.
See, that's what I was getting from this. I wasn't finding it overly depressing because it's nowhere near like Manchester by Sea levels. Like it's got its unhappy moments, and the characters are clearly all depressed, and they're all making like terrible decisions because of that, and that's fueling it as well. But like that's fine, and I did still find some moments of enjoyment out of it. I just didn't know where to. I just didn't know where to take it for this podcast.
That's kind of what I'm asking you, I guess. Is it just that you didn't like this film in the context of it being a film for Beyond the Box Set, or did you not like this film?
The former.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. That's a different thing. You know, I can accept that I made a mistake and this isn't the right film for this podcast. I can completely accept that.
Yeah. I didn't really sort of feel one way or the other about this. I didn't like absolutely hate it.
No.
And I didn't absolutely love it. It was just
Did it, like,
somewhere in the middle. I felt a bit meh about it.
Did it do anything for you emotionally? Is what I'm asking really.
No.
Okay, that's fine. Again, like, because I think this is a real tearjerker. The end always gets me a little bit. Like I think it's a very and that last scene on the park bench when he's waiting for the bus home and
It's very cheesy, cliche.
Cheesy? Really?
There was a
You didn't
very
feel
very cliche scene.
Oh, I really disagree. I think it's lovely. Like I don't think it's cliche that they have like this emotional breakthrough at that moment. Like I think it earns its tear. Like I'm not a big fan of films that are tearjerkers where it's like, you know, it's a rom-com and then, oh no, she's got cancer, or oh no, the dog died, you know, like, you know, it just extracts tears by, you know, with like a precision, whatever. I don't think this film does that. I think this film builds up a very realistic relationship between these two people, and you find them frustrating at different times, and they make horrible decisions, and they treat each other badly. But at the end of the film, it's like, you understand why they are the way they are, and that last scene when they're talking to each other, how is that cliched when he just says, you know, remember what we used to say to each other when we were kids, and they're both tearing up, and they both know that he can't stay, and they both understand that it's not the right place for him, and he knows he's not going to come back for Christmas. He knows he's lying to her, and she knows he's not going to come back for Christmas, but at the same time, it's just like. I just think it's very like real and human and nice. I didn't think it was cliched at all. Cliched would be like, for me, I don't know, would be like your classic tearjerker where, oh no, he's got cancer, you know?
Yeah. Maybe cliche was too strong of a word, but just
it didn't do anything for you.
Didn't buy it.
Fair enough. That's fine. That's just your opinion, you monster, dead inside.
This film is nowhere near that emotional.
Okay. Well, again, I think it's just it's obviously a question of like what.
Also, I didn't like that there wasn't. It's not that there wasn't any resolution. There wasn't any difference between the start and the end of the film. Like nothing changed.
Yeah.
For any character really.
Yeah, I think it's obviously a question of like what you respond to in a film. For me, I quite like a film where I don't need a film to have a neat beginning and ending. I'm quite happy to just watch two people interact for an hour and a half, and then like as long as I feel like it's been something authentic. And so yeah, I like the really dry elements of this, but you know that's it's neither here nor there. That is just obviously didn't really do it for you. So I apologize. I'm sorry that this hasn't been the most rewarding film I've ever chosen.
Yeah, well, it's all right. It's also not the worst.
Exactly, it's not the worst.
It's the second worst.
I was thinking, I don't think this film is any more downbeat, depressing, than Room, which was a you pick.
Oh, that was my worst. Yeah.
Yeah. So but you'd say that was.
Oh no! I admit that I picked an absolute dud there. Don't worry.
Okay, good. So we're on even. Or Brokeback Mountain even.
Well, that was a you pick.
It was a me pick, but I don't know if
and you followed that Room by Ed Wood.
True.
So we're not even, John. Don't.
Oh, fine. Whatever. Well, we've all made mistakes. Anyway, so we've established that I like this film more than you, but I guess we should move on to a plot summary.
Yeah, go for it.
Maybe we can find some things you enjoyed.
Yeah.
Where were you?
Nowhere. I had dinner with my boss.
Kind of a late dinner, ain't it?
Yeah. How was Rudy?
Fine. He's asleep.
Did the plumber come?
Yeah, the fucking plumber came.
Terry, just give me a break.
What's the matter with you?
Nothing. I'm just tired.
Want to smoke some pot?
No, I don't. Why? You got some?
So, You Can Count on Me, directed by Kenneth Lonergan, who also wrote it and also wrote and directed Manchester by the Sea, which was a big Oscar player a few years ago. It stars Laura Linney and Mark Ruffalo, both of whom were pretty much unknown at this point, and this film made them both. Well, she'd done a few things before this. He was literally an unknown.
She'd done Truman Show by this point.
I think just afterwards or around the same time. Like, she was a rising star. She'd done a few bits and pieces here and there. But this was definitely her big breakthrough. It was her first Oscar nomination. And he was friends with the writer-director, so this was literally his breakthrough. It was the first major thing he ever did, and it really put him on the map. So yeah, it was released in the year 2000, and it opens in a small New York town, very like picturesque, small town vibe. It opens pretty bleak, like, because I did think when you text me saying, why on earth did you choose this film? This film is just so depressing. I don't understand what you thought you were thinking.
Oh no, don't worry about like the opening scene, because I know that like you need to give films more than like the opening scene or something to help you understand what the film is, what its mood is.
Sure.
And like a scene of two people dying in a horrific car crash, you don't really see it, to be honest, thankfully. And then like their kids being let know. Sure, it's a pretty bleak opening, but that doesn't turn me off. Like, I know that a great comedy could start with that.
In this case,
No.
well, I think what I'm getting at is I think this film does have an interesting structure, because I do think the first maybe 40 minutes are pretty relentlessly sad.
Yeah.
But then I think the next 40 minutes are pretty much all, for me anyway, comedy. I think the middle of this film, for me, is just really funny. But again, that's just a taste of it. And then at the end, it gets sad again. Right.
40 minutes is too long for a dramedy to have its first joke.
I get it.
That is definitely too long.
But I think it's like setting the characters up, and then you can enjoy the weird ways they behave because you understand who they are at that point. So
Sure, yeah, no, that is important, but it turns me off, and I probably wouldn't have carried it on if I didn't have to.
sure, yeah, I got that. I understand. Okay, so yes, opens with this youngish couple. Probably
it's the same with like most of the Oscar films this year.
If you didn't have to watch them, you wouldn't. Yeah. Sure, I get that. Yes, so it opens with this youngish couple, probably like mid to late 30s, driving along a quiet road, and they get into a terrible traffic accident, and they are both killed instantly.
Well, they start off by talking for what I assumed was the setup to a joke. They're saying like, why is it that girls are always given braces at the time that they become the most self-conscious?
Yeah.
Boom, dead.
Yeah.
I was like, what was that?
I think they were supposed to be talking about
that was almost like something funny.
Yeah, well, that's what I like about this film. I like the fact that the dialogue isn't obvious. It's not just like, hey, I wonder what time we're going to get home. It's like they're just having a conversation. We just get...
Oh, yeah, no, I do love that.
We get plopped into it, yeah. So anyway, they get killed in this car accident. And the next thing we see is the police going around to their house, where they have two young children, a boy and a girl, called Terry and Sammy. And it's the police knock on the door and inform the babysitter that the parents have been killed in the car accident.
The babysitter, confusingly enough for me, looked exactly like a very young, like a young Laura Linney. Like I saw her and I was like, oh, that is great casting.
Yeah.
But no.
Now I can understand how that would throw you, but no.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't confuse me for long, but it was just like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah, this young brother and sister, their parents have been killed and they are now orphans. I think it very instantly sets the scene of what kind of really small town they live in by the fact that the babysitter and the police officer who comes to tell them that their parents are dead are on first name basis. So it's like, instantly clear that this is a very small town where everyone knows everyone, which is kind of going to play into a lot of what happens in the rest of the film. So then we cut to probably about 20 years later. I'm assuming that Laura Linney... Well, I know that Laura Linney and Mark Ruffalo were both in their mid-30s when they filmed it, so I'm guessing that is the age the characters are supposed to be.
Sure.
Kind of makes sense, yeah. Yeah, it's 20 years later, and Sammy, the Laura Linney character, is still living in this town. And she is now working at a local bank. And she has a young son named Rudy, who's played by Rory Culkin, who is Macaulay's younger brother. Now starring in a great TV show called Succession, for those who watch that. I know you haven't, but he is, yeah. It's funny, in Succession, he plays like a sexual pervert and a really gross character, like a really enjoyably gross character. So just watching him be this cute little kid being like flung around by Mark Ruffalo just kind of tickled me. But yeah. Anyway, so yes, Sammy's still living in this town with her young son. the son's father is not on the scene, but she's sort of dating a nice guy named Bob, like very casually, off and on, seems to just occasionally just get with him to have sex, and then they have these slightly awkward dinners. So yeah, that's her life. And then as the kind of film opens, she receives a letter from Terry, her younger brother, who is now played by Mark Ruffalo. And she's not seen him in over 2 years. He's been out like traveling all around America.
Yeah.
And she hasn't heard from him in over 6 months. So she has, and again, this is a pre-Facebook film. So like she has no way of knowing where he is. If he doesn't write to her, like now you could not write to speak to a family member in months and they'd know where you were just from Facebook. But yeah, in this era, like she has no idea whether he's alive or dead. She's not heard anything from him in months, and she's been very concerned. So she's very thrilled to get this letter from him that he's going to come and visit her. And they arrange to meet. He comes back to the town basically, and they arrange to meet in a local cafe for lunch. I guess that's how they first meet.
Yeah.
So he arrives, and he is clearly instantly very uncomfortable. You see that he just doesn't like being in this town. He's very uncomfortable with the fact that everyone knows his name. Like he runs into that same police officer who told her about his parents' death. And he just, the police officer just like, he's like, give me a cuddle. Like, it's literally says the word cuddle. Like, he's incredibly like, and everyone he walks past is like shaking his hand and saying, oh, nice to see you back in town. And you can tell he hates it. Like, he's just not comfortable in that environment whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it's instantly putting him on edge. So then he meets Sammy, he meets his sister, and he's very kind of fidgety and kind of passive aggressive and snapping at her a little bit. And he's obviously just very uncomfortable to be back. And it's clear he doesn't want to be there. And she's increasingly kind of upset by that and hurt by it because she was really looking forward to seeing him, but it's obviously he doesn't really want to be there. And then as this incredibly awkward lunch goes on, he admits that the reason that he hasn't been in touch with her for months on end is that he's actually been in prison probably for assault. He says he got into a fight in a bar, so we don't know exactly what the charges were, but clearly he got into a bar fight, ended up in prison.
Yeah.
And actually
says that he didn't start it.
Says he didn't start it, but
that's what everybody will
clearly,
say.
yeah. Again, like there are jokes. Like when he says, "Did it ever occur to you that maybe I was in the wrong?" And she goes, "No."
Is that a joke?
It made me laugh just because it was just so. I don't know. It just made. I thought it was funny. Just
Sure.
her reaction made me laugh. Just like, no, I never thought it wasn't your fault. Like different senses of humor, I guess. Fine. I honestly find this film hilarious.
Like I say, I don't need a joke to have a punchline or anything, but just I didn't even recognize that as a joke.
Just that she, as his sister, still is like, no, it was clearly your fault. I don't need to know the details. Clearly, this was all your fault. Like,
I still don't get it.
I found it funny. Whatever, fine, okay. But she's
Is
heartbroken.
it just me?
I don't know. I mean, did Louise like it?
No.
Well, then it's not just you.
Great. Okay.
Right.
Oh, thank God.
Look, there's no right or wrong answers. You know, it's just a question of taste. But anyway, he's been in prison, and then he basically admits that the only reason he's come back, and he doesn't want to stay, he wants to get out as soon as possible. He's just come back because he needs to borrow some money from her, and it just breaks her heart. It crushes her.
Yeah.
And I think this scene is so sad. It's so sweet and sad, like, because she's so happy to see him, and you can just see as this whole conversation goes on, like the light dies in her eyes, and she realizes that he's just come back to take money from her.
Yeah.
And she's just so upset about it. And to make matters worse, the reason he needs money is that he says he's got a girl pregnant back in wherever he was before, Florida, whatever, and he needs the money to help pay for an abortion. So it couldn't be worse. It couldn't be a more depressing reason why he's come to see her and to just take some money from her. And she's obviously devastated. And she gives him the money because she cares about him. But she has kind of a bit of a meltdown in the car, and she's like, I've been looking forward to seeing you for so long, and if I'd known you were just going to come and ask me for money, I wish you just sent me an invoice instead. It would have been less painful. And it's lovely. It's really sad. You give me the face again. Like, clearly it did nothing for you, but I found this to be a very sad scene.
Sure. I found it less happy than the other scenes.
It's not supposed to be a happy scene, but
No.
I just thought it was a nice scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Where we going? Pick a pretty. Well, do you not even want me to visit now? Because I could catch the bus at 5 o'clock if that's what you want.
Of course I want you to visit, you idiot. I've been looking forward to seeing you more than anything. I told everybody I know that you were coming home. I cleaned the whole fucking house so it would look nice for you. I mean, I thought you'd stay at least a few days. I had no idea that you were just broke again. I wish you'd just send me an invoice.
He comes back to her house and stays with her for at least for the night, before he heads back to see the girl, who he'd also very unsubtly tried to dump before he left. Like he was, you see a little scene of him with the girlfriend, if you could even say she's his girlfriend, and he kind of borrows money off her as well, and he's like, look, when I get back, I think you should think very seriously about moving back in with your parents. And he kind of, it's obvious that he's checked out, and as soon as this abortion's happened, he's going to dump her.
Yeah.
So he's not particularly covered in glory in these scenes. He's not particularly treating anyone in his life terribly well.
No, not at all.
So then he tries to phone the girl, the pregnant girl, and then he learns that she has attempted suicide since he left, presumably because he was so horrible to her. And that really cuts him up. He's really devastated. He feels very guilty. And because of that, he sends her the money, but then he agrees to stay with his sister for a while he kind of like gets his head together and sorts his life out a bit. And even though he's treated her horribly, she's still really thrilled that he's back. Like you can tell she absolutely worships him, and she's really happy that he's going to stay for a little while, and she's looking forward to him spending some time with her and her son. And she asks him to kind of step in a little bit and help to take care of her little boy. And he does. He bonds.
Yeah, because she's having a lot of pressure at work.
Yeah, because also she's got a new manager at work. She works in this bank, and they've got a new manager played by Matthew Broderick, who is definitely like at peak Matthew Broderick in this movie. Like these are, it's like we talked about this in Election. Matthew Broderick is probably the best actor, I think, in Hollywood at playing these cringy white male characters. Like just such an arsehole, but like not because he's a nasty person, just because he's just awful. Like, he's like that.
Yeah.
You've all had that boss who's just like a complete job's worth, who just like wants to make you do stupid paperwork for no reason, and just doesn't get on with anyone, and makes everyone's life harder.
Yeah,
that's him basically. So she's got this awful new boss, and it means that she can't pick her son up from school anymore because he is this boss doesn't like her stepping out at 3:15 every day. So like for the 15 minutes it takes for her to take her son to the babysitters, the boss is like, no, find another solution. And she's like, well, I can't. I'm a single mom. I have no. There isn't anyone else. So now that her brother's here, he can help out a little bit. So she asks him to pick Rudy up from school, and he does, and they start a bonding. The uncle and the nephew, they have a really sweet little bond. And these are some of my favorite moments in the film, when just between these two characters, like, because Rudy, the son, Laura Linney's son, I should say, clearly has desperate need of some kind of father figure. He doesn't have anyone like that in his life, and he clearly instantly like connects very closely with his uncle, and like really hero worships him and really wants to impress him. And there's just some really nice little scenes where they like, well, he takes him to a building site and teaches him how to use a hammer. Then he what else does he do? There's a really funny. Hang on, I'm going to keep saying these scenes are really funny. You're going to be like, I didn't find it funny at all. The scene when he gets really stoned and he comes back to the bedroom and just sits in the bedroom and just talks to the kid in this really inappropriate way. I thought that was really funny.
It was odd. It was confusing.
Yeah, well, he's clearly just like gone out and got pissed and got stoned, and then he's just like, he's talking to the kid like the kid is his age, like he's
yeah.
And this kid is like, and this poor kid is like 7 years old and is like, I don't understand what you're talking about. Yeah. And he's just like ranting at him. I liked it. I thought it was funny.
No, I definitely picked up on how he just referred to the kid as though he was just his best friend, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is why the kid warms to him as well. It's because he's not
treated like a kid.
No, he's not treating him like a kid. He's treating him as if they're just like pals, because he's basically a man-child. Yeah. Like a complete man-child. So.
Yeah, no, that was good.
Finally, a compliment.
You mind if I ask you a personal question?
I don't know.
Do you like it here? I mean, in Scottsville?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. My friends are here. I like the scenery. I don't know.
I know. It's just so... There's nothing to do here.
Yes, there is.
No, there isn't, man. It's narrow. It's dull. It's a dull, narrow town full of dull, narrow people who don't know anything except what things are like right around here. They have no perspective whatsoever, no scope. They might as well be living in the 19th century because they have no idea what's going on. And if you try and tell them that, they want to fucking kill you.
What are you talking about?
I have no idea.
So there's that, and then also one night while he's babysitting, he takes the kid out to a real like dive bar, and they play pool. Teaches him how to play pool, and kind of uses the kid as a pawn in his gambling racket to win some money for.
Yeah.
But it's nice. It's really sweet, and you can see how the kid, really enjoys these scenes. He's obviously never had this much fun in his life, kind of thing.
I've been to a pub before.
He's never been to a
It's not
pub.
that much fun.
Yeah, exactly. It was great. It was it was really good. But unfortunately, while they're at this bar, they get spotted by the local police officer who tells Sammy that Laura Linney that Terry took little Rudy to a bar, and she confronts him about it one day after he forgets to pick Rudy up and says, look, not only are you forgetting to pick him up, you're also taking him to bars at night and telling him to lie about it to me. And then and Terry, Mark Ruffalo, thinks that
The boy dobbed him in.
the boy dobbed him in. The boy like squealed on him, and he's such a brat. The Mark Ruffalo, I mean, like he has such a tantrum about it, and he really tells the kid off, and he's like, "I can't believe you. That's bullshit, man. I can't believe you squealed on me, and I thought you were cool, man. I thought you were cool." So this like 8-year-old kid, and it's so wrong, but it's so funny. For me, I don't know. I really thought this was hilarious that he treated this kid so badly. Like, so he like fully like freezes the kid out then, based on that, until Laura Linney comes home one night and they get stoned together, and then that's when she tells him, "Look, it wasn't Rudy. He didn't tell me. It was the police officer." And then he feels really bad about it, and he tries to make amends, and the kid's like obviously quite upset about the whole thing. Meanwhile, Laura Linney, her boyfriend Bob, proposes to her. Kind of out of nowhere. It seems like they've been very kind of off and on and not really dating properly, and she's kind of thrown by this engagement proposal. Doesn't feel like there was anything built into it, and she clearly doesn't want to at all. But she kind of tries to.
Well, she doesn't say yes immediately. She wants to take some time to think about it.
Yeah, that's never a good sign.
Just say no.
Yeah, you don't want to reluctantly agree to get married. You either do or you don't.
Yeah, like no one wants to think about it if they actually want to get married. So, just say no.
Well, I think she was trying to, but Bob was like, "Do you want to think about it?" And then she's like, rather than hurt his feelings. So she's kind of weighing that up, and she's surprised. But also, she started having an affair with Matthew Broderick, basically, because they hate each other. It's a classic, opposites attract kind of thing. He's a complete arsehole. He's riding her hard over the stupidest things, like the fact that she has to take 15 minutes to pick her son up. Also, the fact that people on the team have different coloured monitor screens, and he wants to stamp that out.
This was so bizarre.
It's
to
so
me.
petty, but I've been in those office scenarios when you get told off for doing the most stupid, mundane things. Like that is sometimes what office jobs are like. So again, I thought this was really funny that he is so petty and stupid, and everyone hates him. And like she says later, "You're the worst manager we've ever had."
Yeah,
and you can believe it. He is. So she really doesn't like him, and he resents the fact that she is standing up to him. And they get into a big screaming match several times. But then one night after they've had an argument, well, he brings his 6 months pregnant wife to the office and takes her out. And this wife is clearly not in a good mood at all.
She looks so unhappy.
Doesn't want to be there. Is very rude to everyone. Is rude to him. And I think that kind of arouses Laura Linney's sympathy a little bit, and she kind of feels a bit bad for him because obviously he's not particularly happy in his marriage. And so that night she asks him to go for a beer with her. One thing leads to another, and they end up having sex in his car.
I've got nothing to say.
You made a face like that scene had some kind of effect on you, but no.
No, not really. It was just like, typical.
Well, I laughed. Again, I'm just going to talk about the moments that made me laugh. I really laughed when they're having sex in the car, and he says to her, something like, "I want you to tell me who changed the colours of my monitor." And she goes, "I'll never tell." That was funny, right? No?
Yeah, sure. It was kind of, yeah.
All right, fine. Wow.
Sammy,
Yeah.
I want you to tell me who changed the colors on my computer screen.
I'll never tell.
So he's sleeping with her.
Keep trying though.
I'm not gonna let this go. I'm gonna keep pushing
please.
it. Yeah, so they start having an affair. They start having sex at every opportunity, and she feels kind of bad about it. I mean, he does have a 6 month pregnant wife. It's not the best, and she's also quite religious. So this is very much against her religion. That's a whole plot point. But also she's kind of thrilled. Clearly, she's like very much lived her life as like the good girl, whereas her brother has clearly been like the bad boy. And I think she's obviously just enjoying being naughty for a while. Like, there's a great scene again. I can't believe the acting in this film when she's just like driving on the road and she's just laughing to herself. It's great.
Yeah, no, I remember that.
Okay. God, this is it's like just you give me nothing back.
Yeah, well.
So she feels really guilty about the fact that she's having this affair with this married man with a pregnant wife. So she goes to her priest. But she's too embarrassed. She can't admit what she's done at this point. So instead, she kind of panics and asks the priest, instead of talking about her sins, she brings the priest back home and asks him to kind of give a lecture to Terry.
Yeah.
Which Terry takes about as well as you could imagine. Because he is clearly an atheist. He clearly does not believe in religion at all. He said this before. She asked him very early on, like, why don't you go to church anymore? And he's like, because I don't believe any of that. I think it's a fairy tale. And so the fact that she's now brought a priest home to kind of lecture him about morals and good behavior, he's just like, fuck you. Especially because she's just told him the night before when they both got stoned that she's sleeping with her married boss who has a pregnant woman. So he's just like, you are a hypocrite, fuck you, I can't believe you've done this. But obviously she's done it because she can't accept her own guilt.
Yep.
Whatever. But he's so mad at her, he's furious, and because he's a bit of a brat, or a lot of a brat, he takes it out on Rudy the kid. Because he's promised previously to take Rudy out fishing. And now he's like, no, I'm not taking you fishing anymore. Maybe you should go fishing with the priest. Like, he's so bratty.
Yeah.
And she's like, look, I know you're mad at me. Don't take it out on my son. He's like, no.
See, this film would have been way better if it was you in the role instead of Mark Ruffalo, because your delivery on these lines, way funnier.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I disagree, but thank you. I think Mark Ruffalo is hilarious. I think he gets it pitch right. But
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, maybe we should remake it. You
Well,
Mark
me as the
Ruffalo,
star, yeah.
I'll be Laura Linney.
Sure, I can buy that, yeah. Yeah, maybe instead of a sequel, we'll just do a dramatic reading of the key scenes. Yeah. Yeah, so he refuses to take Rudy fishing just purely to spite her. And she's just like, well, you're an asshole, you're the worst.
Yeah.
But he does ultimately change. He has a change of heart and he picks Rudy up from school, takes Rudy fishing. And I feel like I'm just throwing bricks at nothing, but there's a great, because the kid has been so excited about the fishing trip for half the movie. As soon as it gets brought up, the kid's so excited to go fishing. And then Mark Ruffalo has this dramatic change of heart. He's like, fine, we're going to go fishing. And the kid runs into the car, jumps into the car, so happy. And then we hard cut to the scene of them fishing, and the kid just goes, I've never been so bored in my entire life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. And in the course of
I felt for the kid in that moment.
True, fishing is boring. It's overrated.
Yeah,
but
no, I related to it.
have you been taken fishing against your will?
No, but I've watched really boring films.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Oh, right. I get it now.
You walked right into that one, John.
So while they're having this boring fishing contest, the kid starts asking questions about his dad, because obviously Terry knew. I think we can assume that Laura Linney probably got pregnant just out of school or something, or very young.
Yeah.
So the kid Rudy starts asking Terry about his dad and whether his dad was a good fisherman. And then Mark Ruffalo, Terry, has the worst idea in the world. He says, well, your dad just lives in the next town. Why don't we just go see him? And the kid obviously has never met his dad. Like, it's not a relationship at all. And it turns out Laura Linney lied and said that he lived in Alaska. And Terry's like, no, your mum lied to you. Your dad literally lives across the town. We could literally go right now. It's such a terrible decision. It's like, it's cringy. What a horrible. But then I don't think he's doing it to be cruel. I think he's just makes very poor choices and just.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think he feels like if the kid sees how bad his dad is, that his dad is just this waster, that he'll get over it and stop hero worshipping him. It's like tough love.
Yeah.
But it's just so the wrong thing to do. And it's so like, why would you do this to this poor kid? Like, it's awful.
Yeah.
So he basically kind of bullies the kid into actually going to confront his dad for the first time. They drive to the trailer park where his dad lives, knock on the door. The dad's obviously got a new wife or girlfriend who answers the door. And as soon as the dad, who's also called Rudy, sees the kid and realizes who it is, he's like, get off my property. I don't want anything to do with you. Get away from me.
Yeah.
Him and Mark Ruffalo get into a huge fight. There's a massive punch up. Mark Ruffalo just basically beats the shit out of him. And you just see the two of them having this massive punch up. The police come.
It's a hilariously bad punch up.
It is a hilariously bad punch up.
The fighting in it is just terrible.
Well, it is. It's not the best, but it's also... So at least you found that funny. That was something, yeah. But then you also see poor little Rudy, poor little Rory Culkin just like watching this massive scrap between his uncle and his dad. And his dad said, I don't even know this kid. And it's heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
And yeah, Mark Ruffalo gets arrested. I guess Rudy gets put into custody for the night, whatever. Meanwhile, Laura Linney has had another night with Matthew Broderick, but she's finally worked up the courage to dump him and say, look, I don't want to continue this affair anymore. I feel really guilty.
Yeah.
So she's broken up with him.
At which point I'm concerned for her job.
Sure, yeah. I mean, we'll get to her job, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then she breaks up with him. She comes home to an empty house. Like, Terry's not come home, Rudy's not come home. So she obviously freaks out. She panics. She phones all the police. She tries to figure out where they might have gone. She calls Bob, and Bob stays with her that night. And I think that's when Bob wins her around, because he like, he's very reliable and supportive, and he knows she needs a car in case there's an emergency. So he stays the night. So Bob's he's a bit wet, but he's a stand-up guy. And then finally the next morning, Terry is released from prison, and then she realizes what's happened, and Rudy's returned, and obviously Rudy's very traumatized by what he's been through this experience. Clearly she's not said anything about, she's really avoided the conversation about like who his father is. So now they finally have the conversation. He's like, it doesn't matter, I'm not really that upset because I know that wasn't really my dad, that was just some guy. And he said he wasn't really my dad, he said I wasn't his son. And she goes, no, I'm really sorry, he is. I wish he wasn't, but he is. That is who your dad is. So so they have this very heartfelt little moment. And then Laura Linney,
Which you didn't see enough of. I don't think. I wanted a bit more of a reaction from the kid, but like she starts telling the conversation, and I could swear the camera just pans away.
I'll see. Maybe there's the difference between me and you. I don't want to see a kid being like, wah. I was fine with it being like.
Well, I didn't want the kid to like have a proper meltdown and cry and get really unhappy and everything, but I wanted the scene to just play out a little bit more.
Fair enough. Fair. I didn't mind. It wasn't
because like I don't think that kid would have cried in that conversation.
No, I think he would have been quiet. Like,
yeah, he seems like a very mature kid.
Yeah, he is.
So yeah, I would have been quite interested to see how that was going to play out, but just no.
Well, yeah, but she tells him anyway, and she kind of breaks it to him, and then she goes down and confronts Terry, and she says, "Look, I want you to leave. This is not healthy for my son anymore. Like you're incapable of making mature decisions, and you're hurting my son's feelings, and I can't. I love you both, but I have to choose my son."
Yeah,
and he once again, because he's very much a baby, he refuses to accept responsibility, and he kind of lashes. He's like, "Well, fine, I'll just leave town forever. Then I'm just going to go," and he storms out the house and sleeps over with a friend, and they don't speak to each other for a few days, and she doesn't know if he's even still in town or not.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, back at the bank, Matthew Broderick tries to fire her, but she just like refuses to be fired, which I thought was really funny and cool. She's just like, "No, you're not firing me. You can't. I don't accept it." And he's like, he's got nothing.
Yeah.
And that's when she kind of really rips him to shreds and goes, "Look, you are the worst manager we've ever had." And he says something like, "Well, fine. Why don't you run the bank?" And there's a great shot of her being like,
Yeah.
And it's like, she is going to run the bank because he's clearly not going to last very long. He is a terrible manager. So she's great. She just really just like owns that scene. She's just like, "No, I'm not being fired by you. I don't respect you enough to let you fire me."
Yeah. That was good.
No, thank you. Oh, okay, that was something then at least. So she does that. And Rudy her son is really blaming her because he obviously really still hero worships Mark Ruffalo a lot. So the son is blaming Laura Linney for kind of kicking the uncle out and really just is angry at her, and that's making her feel really guilty, and she feels really bad, and she kind of has a bit of a meltdown about that. So she then calls Terry, Mark Ruffalo, and he promises to come over. He's going to leave town the next day. He's going to get on a bus and go back to Alaska or something.
Yeah.
But he promises he's going to show up the next day and say goodbye to them both. And he's very, very late, and it looks like he's not going to come, but then he does at the last minute. He turns up. He says an emotional goodbye to Rudy, gives him a big hug, and obviously he's very moved as well, and it's very sweet. And then Laura Linney takes him to the bus stop, and they sit together. And I love this scene so much. This is the reason I'd like come back to this movie. This scene is beautiful. I really think it is. They just have this real like emotional heart to heart. Like she says, like I never wanted you to like disappear. I just don't think you can be around my son right now because you're not behaving particularly well, but I want you to be in my life. I really care about you, and you're my favorite person, and all this stuff. And then he kind of somewhat admits that he was in the wrong, and they really talk it out. And then he promises to come back for Christmas, and she knows he's lying, and she knows she's not going to see him for a long time. But then they just have this very emotional moment together where they kind of remember how shit their childhood was and how they only had each other. And it's like, because clearly that's where the title of the movie comes in. You Can Count on Me. Like, it never comes up until this scene. And then he says, "Hey, remember," and how can you think Mark Ruffalo will be better than me at this? Like, he's literally like holding back sobs. It's so powerful. He says, "Look, remember what we said when we were kids." And they never say it out loud, but clearly it's "You can count on me." That's clearly what they say to each other.
Yeah.
And they just have this really emotional moment, and they reconcile and they hug, and he gets on the bus and they go their separate ways.
Yeah.
And the movie ends.
Yeah.
And you heartless bastard. That's
And
it.
I cheer.
And you cheer for the movie ending. Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, Sammy. You can trust me. Come on, Sammy. Look at me. Look at me. Hey, Sammy. Remember when we were kids? Remember what we always used to say to each other?
Of course I do.
Remember when we were kids?
Well, that's it. That's the movie. I'm sorry it didn't really work for you, but I liked it a lot.
Yeah. No, a bit of a dud. Sorry.
Okay, well, fair enough. It happens. I will take that note, and I'll try to avoid anything that involves real feelings in the future.
Yeah.
Clearly not your bag.
Ah, well. Listeners, if you are anything unlike me and you feel like you have enjoyed this or you've enjoyed any previous episode, then, why not say thank you to me and John? Not just by giving us a 5-star review somewhere, but by going to patreon.com/beyondtheboxset and supporting us for as much or as little as you think you're worth. If you do, you get a few bonus features. You get a bonus show, which we review cinema releases and streaming releases. Building up to the Oscars right now, so there's all that. I would love to say good things about that, but
It's not a classic year, I'd say.
it's a bit of a downer year, I've got to be honest. But anyway, we'll get to that in our next review of Nomadland, I think.
I'm sure you loved that film.
Yeah, it was just great. Also, if you become a Patreon, you get to do Patreon picks as well, which every month we get a Patreon to pick an episode for the main show that you get to choose the film. Come and guest if you want to, but you don't have to.
Pick Manchester by the Sea. Crush Harry.
I do reserve the right to veto.
Okay, fine.
And I veto that here and now.
Okay, fine.
Forever. What else do you get? You get extended episodes. Want some bit more talk about the film, more sequel ideas, more listener submissions. Yeah, that's that. And you also get a 30-second advert slot where you can pitch. No, where you can talk about your own podcast.
You can pitch your podcast.
You can pitch whatever you want to talk about for 30 seconds. So all that and more at patreon.com/beyondtheboxset.
Indeed.
So what does the receptionist do when the fire alarm goes off?
I don't know. Call the fire brigade?
I seriously hope that was a joke. That's what the fire alarm is for.
Well, she's the one who asked what to do. I'm just guessing.
Well, I think you'd have to be the one that makes sure everyone knows where the fire exits are and checks that everyone is out of the building. Like, we have the list of guests. It's not that hard.
I just wait till it actually happens and we'll see if you find it's not that hard. What are you going to do if everyone goes off running in different directions before you check them off your list?
Or someone sleeps through it.
I highly doubt you can sleep through a fire alarm.
I have.
Sure.
So what? We're just going to say they'll check off all the guests as they exit the building to make sure they're all out.
Welcome to The Quids In is a new fictional podcast coming to all podcasting platforms weekly from September 10th, 2020. Learn more about the show by visiting our website at islandlifeproductions.com and clicking on Support Us.
Okay, so shall we get to drinking games? I'm very excited because you've had so many thoughts and feelings on this film. I can't imagine how good your drinking games are going to be.
Yeah, okay. It's a lot of attitude right there.
Sorry, go on.
Sure.
Prove me wrong.
So, first of all, drink for that goddamn cello music all the time.
I had that too, drink for the cello.
The first time it came in, me and Louise both simultaneously sighed. I was like, oh, God, this music is so overplayed. And then it got about 10 seconds into that piece. And I was like, oh, no, this is really good. I actually quite like this. And then it plays every single time between every single scene. And looking at some of the reviews of this film that are all really like, oh my God, this really spoke to my heart. This is such a masterpiece of cinema. I think it's all down to pretentious people liking this music.
Are you saying that I'm pretentious?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have I not said that before? Sorry.
Okay. So we're clear. Fine. Yeah, it's all about the cello.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I agree that.
Sorry, Bach, but your music is overplayed.
Is it Bach?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was an original piece.
No.
Okay.
Well, maybe this was its first use in film, but it's written by Bach.
Now who's pretentious? I can't tell a bark piece. I don't know.
No, you're just an idiot.
Wow, okay. All the gloves are off this week, listeners. Yeah, I also had drink for the cello. It is very prominent in this film.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I had drink for smoking.
Oh, yeah.
This feels like
sure.
a very early 2000s film where it's just at that point before people stopped smoking. Everyone in this film smokes, apart from the kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of like great. I always like a scene when people are like leaning out of a window to smoke, so they don't know.
Oh, yeah. No, I should have written that one down actually. But yeah, I love it when people are trying to smoke subtly, as though it ever works.
Yeah.
Smoking is a very potent smell, and like especially when it's weed as well.
Yeah.
Like there's a bit where he tries to do it in like the toilet of a bus.
Yeah.
Everyone knows.
Yes, very much.
And
so.
they all hate you.
100%. Yeah.
Drink for old tech.
Yes, I knew that would annoy or
Old tech
amuse
and
you.
ridiculously coloured screens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how that woman. If it makes her happy, fine. But I don't know how that woman possibly gets any work done with a pink screen.
Yeah.
Like, is she colourblind?
Mr. Blobby OS.
Yeah, it looked awful. Yeah, absolutely. I had drink every time Matthew Broderick is just tragic.
Nice.
Is just an arsehole. Just the worst character.
Yeah.
Like, he's such a terrible boss, such a job's worth. But he is the comic relief of this movie.
Along those lines, I've got drink whenever Mark Ruffalo is a man-child.
I drink every time Mark Ruffalo makes poor choices.
Yeah. He did that for anybody, really.
Yeah, but him in particular. Like, Laura Linney's doing her best, as a mom.
Well, she varies.
Clearly, sleeping with Matthew Broderick, not the best move. But she's the good sister. Mark Ruffalo makes
Going to the priest.
Yeah, no, he does. No, she does make bad choices. She does.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, they all make bad choices. But his choices are particularly disastrous. I think Mark Ruffalo's. Like taking poor Rudy to see his birth father and all that. It's just
that was a nightmare.
It was a nightmare. Yeah.
I've just covered it as well. Actually, I said drink whenever Laura Linney is bad at her job. Oh no, that is definitely different. Stuff like just when she is just like running out of the office without talking to her boss, or like talking back to people, and just like kind of keeping up with the sort of encouraging the gossip and the pranking of like changing people's screens and stuff like that.
I don't think that makes her bad at her job.
Some of it does. Running out of the office without talking to your boss. Like there's a bit where she literally runs past him.
She could stop and say, "Look, this is where I'm going."
Yeah. At least say where you're going. Not even say, "Can I go?" Just tell him where you're going.
I should have known you side with Matthew Broderick in this film.
Well, she doesn't appear in work for an entire day at one point.
Sure.
What's he doesn't know anything. Like he's not been told anything. So what's he supposed to do about that?
All right.
Like just and even when like he calls her, she's just like mean to him down the phone. Like just let him know. Like, oh, sorry, my kid was taken to, like, it's a whole thing, but ultimately my kid has been in the custody of the police for the past 48 hours, and I wasn't aware of this. I wasn't aware. I didn't know where he was because I was sleeping with you.
Yeah.
So give me a break. So yeah.
Fine.
Anyway,
the most hess up you've become about this movie is to defend Matthew Broderick, who is literally the villain of this movie. Right?
He is as close to a villain
as you're gonna get.
Yeah.
On a very similar note, drink for post-it notes. Love a post-it note.
Yeah. I'm done.
I'm actually also done. Those were all my drinking games.
Great. Yeah. Cool. Well, sequels then?
Sure, let's go for it.
Well, I really struggled in watching this film for many reasons. But one of them was that just I did not know where to take this. I had a few ideas, but nothing really sort of jumped out to me. The first idea that I had was to just try and take it like, where are they now?
Yeah.
It's an obvious one. Like, what are they doing now?
Yeah.
But the only things that these characters are about is bad decisions.
Sure.
So all I could think of was just a series of bad decisions that they'd all made, and all of it just kept getting really depressing.
Okay.
I just didn't really feel like talking about it because I'm trying to do a moderately comedic podcast.
Okay. So this movie defeated your sense of making things funny.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. I'm not very good at making misery funny. I'm great at making misery miserable.
And you're great at making comedy miserable too.
Yeah, no, I am. I'll take that. So I thought that like I didn't have it in me to try and make a miserable sequel.
Okay.
I can't be asked.
So what you're saying is I've broken you.
Yeah. But don't feel proud.
Oh, I do. Mission accomplished, baby.
Yeah, so I had some other like very small ideas, but I just really didn't know where to take them. So,
Okay.
like, I've got my list that I go through of different ideas.
Yeah,
to
you've
try
got
and-
your templates. We all
Yeah.
we're 200 odd episodes in. We need a format here. We need a formula. Yeah.
And this film is jumped past all. It's failed everything.
It's failed every hurdle.
Yeah.
It's failed every Harry Chapel
So I
formula.
tried like taking the title. Like, what if I switch it around? Like, I can rely on you, or whatever it is, or I can count on you, or I can count on me. You can count on you. Nothing worked there.
No.
There was no wordplay with the title. I tried thinking like, what about words that rhyme? Like, you can count on bees. Like, no, there's nothing there.
I don't know. I think I want to see that. You can count on bees. It's like the same film, but they're all like in a hive.
I guess, but again, what is this? I don't
Like
really
a
know.
queen bee and a worker drone, but their relationship goes, I don't know, goes poorly.
Yeah, no,
It's not quite buzzing. Fine, okay.
No, yeah, and so the next on the list is like do a crossover or something. But what? Like, what do you cross over like this film that just had nothing for me? Like the only thing that obviously, I think you probably thought of this, but as you picked the movie, like, oh, Mark Ruffalo's the Hulk. Harry will do a Marvel thing.
Yeah, that was in my mind, but
there's nothing
to
there.
be fair, it's not the easiest.
Like the characters share nothing in common other than their visual appearance.
Sure.
Apart from the Ed Norton movie.
Yes, not even.
So,
that, yeah.
So yeah, there's nothing there. There's nothing. Yeah, there's no crossovers. Can't do a prequel because that is the opening to the movie.
Sure.
Can't do a sidequel because there's nothing really going on there. I was thinking maybe something with Matthew Broderick's character. Because he's like the most open.
He's the comic relief for this movie, yeah.
I guess, yeah. So you could do some sort of a prequel with him, but again, he's just a guy who makes bad decisions. And like he's just a bad guy who makes bad decisions. He's not even somebody who you want to root for.
No.
So I didn't really know what to do there. But the best that I could come up with is just doing The Office.
Yeah.
But there's a major problem there, which is I haven't seen The Office.
Either the US or the UK version.
No, I did watch 2 episodes of the UK version in my lunch break once, but that made me very depressed.
Yeah. I feel like wrong place and time. Absolutely wrong place.
Sat at my computer in the office.
Yeah, that's not a good shout.
No. So, I'm officially beaten by this.
So what you're saying is I've defeated you with this film.
Yeah, but again, that's not a good thing, John.
I kind of feel like it is.
Well,
I feel pretty proud.
Okay, do you want me to try and beat you?
No, but I feel like you've never... I've always risen to the bad choices you've made.
Yeah, but that's... I don't know. I don't care.
That's okay, I get it. So I have a sequel.
I mean, you've not risen to all the bad choices you've made. You didn't come up with a sequel for Ed Wood.
I think I did, didn't I?
I don't think you did.
Did we? Okay, fine. So that
you officially called that episode before I had the chance to.
Okay.
So yeah, not that I disagree. Don't get me wrong. God damn.
We could revisit it.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, I have
You picked Brokeback Mountain. That didn't work either. Like you.
Look, I like to push boundaries. I don't want to.
It's the third time now, John. Third time.
4
strikes and you're out. That's the rule.
Okay, right. So I'm on thin ice. Okay. Well, I have a sequel idea that works for me, and then I have one that is like a sketch that maybe I think you could help me with.
Okay.
So maybe we can bring it back to that. But
okay.
I am taking this as a personal victory.
Great. Okay. Well, you really shouldn't.
Well, I am. I'm choosing to take it as a victory. I'm choosing to accentuate the positive here.
Okay.
I'd rather take a swing and a miss.
You know what? I'm going to take as a personal victory.
Uh-huh.
If you can come up with a sequel to every film that I've done.
What do you mean?
If you can do what we planned to do on this podcast, which is pitching sequels to films.
Yes.
If an episode that you pick fails to do that, then surely that's not a victory.
Right.
You don't make any sense, John.
I'm trying to extract some positivity from this train wreck of an episode.
What, by rewarding yourself for picking a bad film?
Yes, this is not a bad film. One of the best films of the 20th century.
Okay, take it down.
Critics said that. Not just me. Critics.
What critics?
The Guardian. I don't know.
Oh yeah, great, cool.
Look, do you want to hear my sequel or not?
Yeah, go for it.
Great. Okay.
Let's get it over.
So my sequel is You Can Count on Me Too, You Can Count on Him.
Okay.
I thought that was a reasonable enough
Sure.
title. And it's picking up 20 years after the original film. Because you've got two very talented actors here, and I would like to see them rekindle these characters. And I think the reason I chose this movie is that I did think it did leave things open for a sequel, because it does end up with one character hitting the road, and the future is uncertain. And I thought that might have something. So, but the main thing about this is that Laura Linney's character is very much like this very well-behaved, kind of religiously conservative, kind of good person. And I was wondering, like, how might that turn out as time goes by? So I was thinking, let's say 20 years have passed. Sammy, the Laura Linney character, is still working in that bank, but now she's the manager. She has kicked out Matthew Broderick. He's long since left.
Great.
He was clearly not going to last in that job. It wasn't for him. So he's left. She now manages that bank. Meanwhile, Terry, her brother, continues to drift around. He's never really found a grounding. Like, he's never got married or settled down with kids. He's still like going from town to town and getting into wild scrapes. And she sees him every couple of years. He comes to visit. He doesn't stay very long. He always causes a lot of drama. That's who he is. So So after a series of misadventures, he does decide to return to his hometown once again for a visit. So he rolls back into town again to stay with Sammy for a while. But he finds her, and even though she's delighted to see him, because she always is, she's also deeply depressed in this moment. She's very sad because Rudy has disappeared. Her son has disappeared.
Oh dear.
So he went off he's now in his like early to mid 20s, and he went off, he already left the town to go to college, to go to university. But since going to university, he has quit university and he has fully dropped off the radar. She has no idea where he is, what he's doing. She's not heard. It's like history repeating, just like her brother disappeared all those years ago. Her son has now disappeared. He's not speaking to her. She has no idea whether he's alive or dead, whether he's behaving well. Last she heard, he was somewhere in New York.
Yeah.
And that's all she knows.
Yeah.
And so when Terry comes back, she's devastated. She tells him that she's so concerned that Rudy might be in trouble. And he, because he feels really bad for it, and also because he cares about his nephew, he says, look, I will go. You can count on me. I'm going to go to New York and I'm going to find Rudy and I'm going to bring him back home. And so this film is going to be Terry's misadventures as he goes to New York to bring Rudy home. Something he does, he goes to New York. It's like he can finally like repay Sammy for all the good deeds she's done for him. Like he can finally like, make amends. So he goes on a road trip, he drives up to New York, and there's going to be a lot of him flitting around the city trying to like find out where Rudy might be, going to all these different bars, having these crazy drunken scrapes. But I'm thinking it could be additionally funny because he's a lot older now. Like Mark Ruffalo is like 54, I think, at this point. So like he's kind of, because I think the character hasn't really matured. He is still, in his head, he's a 17-year-old boy. He's still like a drifter, but he's still trying to be the same person. So now he's still trying to be that kind of like charming drifter, turning up at the bars all night, at all times of the night, etc. But he's way too old to be there, and it's just awkward. Like, and no one takes him very seriously, and he's it puts him in these weird positions. So I'm thinking that could be kind of a source of comedy. Yeah. Eventually, after much flitting around New York and many misadventures, he finally does discover Rudy, who is in fact working as a drag queen at a local bar in New York.
Okay.
I think New York has a vibrant gay scene. So.
Yeah, sure.
And what I'm thinking is, because one major plot point of the original movie is that Laura Linney's character is quite religious, even though she's not the most consistent person when it comes to this. But she does seem to have a very deep religious faith. And so I'm thinking that the reason that Rudy has left home is that he fears, or maybe, he tried to come out to his mother and she didn't reject him, but she tried to, rather than accept him as for who he was, she again was like, why don't you speak to a priest? And so she never made him feel like he was accepted as the gay man that he is.
Yeah.
So that caused him to drift away from her and then run away to New York so that he could live his best life and become a drag queen in New York, basically. Yeah. So that's what he's doing now. But he's also like got way too into like the New York party scene. He's probably got a bit of a drug problem. He's not particularly stable or settled, and he's actually in quite kind of a bad way. Maybe he's got like a very serious drug problem, actually. Yeah. So when Terry finds him, even though he sympathizes with the fact that Sammy's quite conservative, he sees that Rudy is actually in a bad way and needs some family support, and that's what he's there for. So I think we could have some fun scenes of like Uncle Terry living with Rudy in New York for a while, like on this very like flamboyant New York gay scene. And he likes to think of himself as being such a this is Terry. I mean, Mark Ruffalo's character likes to think of himself as being this incredibly liberal and very open-minded and cool and and like really unflappable character.
Yeah.
But actually he's way out of his depth here. Like this world of like bitchy drag queens is so far beyond what his life experiences are. And he doesn't want to be conservative in any way, shape or form, but he's actually like very uncomfortable with a lot of what's he's seeing, and he doesn't really know how to handle it. I think that could be really funny, this kind of culture clash of him trying to fit in and trying to convince himself and everyone else that he's totally cool and down with the kids, and when actually he's really, this is not his world whatsoever. And he's very troubled by a lot of it. And initially Rudy's going to refuse to go home because he feels like his mother hasn't supported him. And also it's going to turn out that Rudy still holds it against his mother that she pushed Uncle Terry away. Like he still thinks it was her fault that he left because he was such a young age when that happened. He doesn't realize that it was because Uncle Terry was being such a toxic resonance in their lives in many ways. He still blames her. He's like, look, I don't know why you're defending her when she made you go away, and you were like a father to me, and I really missed you, and I always thought she was a bitch for doing that to you. Like he really blames his mother for that whole scenario because he doesn't know what really went down. And so this gives Uncle Terry a chance to like lay down some home truths and be like, look, you don't understand, I messed up completely, she was just trying to protect you, she did nothing wrong, kind of thing. And so he really lays down some home truths and kind of puts Rudy straight, but Rudy still refuses to return home. He's like, I'm not going back to that town. I've left it behind me. So instead, Terry calls Laura Linney, Sammy, and says, look, I'm with him. I found your son. He's not coming home. You need to come to him.
Right. Yeah.
So then that means Laura Linney can drive down to New York into this kind of crazy gay bubble that they're living in. And again, obviously it's a culture clash for her. She's very small town. This is not what she's used to. But yeah, I'm thinking she watches her son perform at a club or something, realizes that he's doing what makes him happy, even though he's in a bad place in many ways with drugs and stuff. But they reconcile, and she tells him that she loves him no matter what. And I just think like they both realize, she realizes that she's not been as open-minded as she could have been, and he realizes that she does love him unconditionally, and she's his mother. And the two of them and Uncle Terry as well, they kind of make peace with each other and are stronger as a family at the end of it.
Yeah.
So it's just a nice family drama, I guess.
Yeah, it seems it.
Continuation of the original. So that was You Can Count on Him. Nice. Him being Terry, I guess, because he brings it all back together.
Yeah.
So that was my sequel idea, for the film. The other thing I had that maybe you can help me with, potentially, I don't know if there's much going on here, but the other idea that I had that might be more up your street is that one of the thoughts I had while watching this film is that Mark Ruffalo is a great actor. Maybe you disagree about this particular performance, but I think he's great.
Well, no, I didn't think that anybody was bad in this film.
But it just didn't blow you away.
Yeah.
But fine, okay. But the point is that
for a film with no plot, I needed to be blown away by the acting.
I get that. But it got me to thinking about how a lot of actors, Mark Ruffalo being one of them, seem like since they've been sucked into the MCU, they've not really had a lot of time to make other movies. And it really got me thinking, like, well, what movies would they have made if they weren't playing Hulk or Iron Man or whatever Don Cheadle's been playing for the last 20 years? I don't know. What a waste of great acting. I'm not being snobby about... Okay, but that might be a little bit snobby. But
waste of their time.
Well, I don't know. They could have done more things. What would Elizabeth Olsen's career be if she didn't have WandaVision? It's interesting. Yeah. She made some really interesting indie films before she made that one. Brie Larson, she made Room, won an Oscar. She made, what was that film that we really liked? With the gunfight in the car park? Free Fight. She made some really interesting films.
I mean, she's hardly not making interesting. She's been in 2 Marvel films.
What else has Brie Larson done the past 5 years?
She did a film with Samuel L. Jackson that nobody watched.
Did she?
Yeah, it went straight to Netflix.
Oh, okay. There's a ringing endorsement.
I don't know why. I don't know.
Well, whatever. So I was thinking you could do some kind of Invasion of the Body Snatchers kind of thing around famous actors being kidnapped and forced to make Marvel films when they could have made so many better movies. Is there anything there for you?
What is this? Is this a film? Is this a documentary?
I don't know.
A mockumentary?
A mockumentary works. I think it's got to be comedic. It's got to be it could be like produced by Marvel as like a.
No, I reckon the mockumentary series totally works. Like one per Marvel film.
Yeah, it could be like behind the music or behind the film, like, you know, behind the camera.
Yeah.
So it's about these actors who are very theatrical, and like Mark Ruffalo could take the piss out of himself, you know, and it could be about these actors trying to put themselves forward as serious thespians, but they're also totally setting out for crappy Marvel films.
Yeah,
and you could really
take it all back, John.
No, I'm not taking any of it back. I'm down on this hill, but like you could parody it so the Marvel films look worse than they are, because I know that a lot of them are very good.
Yeah, make them look like much more sellout roles.
Yeah, exactly. You could really make this funny. You could really allow them to make fun of themselves, and then you could have, because I think if there's ever an actor who doesn't fit in the MCU, it's Laura Linney, because she's so serious and she's not, you know, she's never going to play a superhero.
Yeah,
but like that could be really funny. Like it could be a film about Laura Linney. It could be like, it could start as a "You Can Count on Me" reunion, and Mark Ruffalo's like literally like flinging dollar bills into the air, just cackling because
maybe it's like a couple years before Spider-Man comes out, and it's like Aunt May's just waiting. Like, you could be Aunt May, Laura Linney. Do you want to be Aunt May? And maybe it's like, it's when people become Marvel actors, it kind of becomes like, hey, I'm infected now. Do you want to come and join?
Yeah, it's like joining Scientology. Yeah, it's a cult.
Yeah. A cult. That's what I'm looking for.
Yes, but I'm thinking, so maybe the two of them like catch up 20 years after You Can Count on Me. They have a little documentary about where their careers went since, and he is a gazillionaire. Like he's so rich. He's tanned. He's got like, you know, whatever, and he's just like rolling in money. And she's like, yeah, you know, I was in Love Actually 2 recently. You know, like she's not really doing that much, and she realizes, oh my god, I've missed the gravy train. I need to get myself into a Marvel movie, and it could just all be about Laura Linney's, like, because she's so not suited to be in Marvel. It's just not her world. Yeah, like Laura Linney, very serious actress, trying to like get into the MCU, even though there's no demand for it, and it could just be like it would really work as a mockumentary. It could be like 30 Rock meets The Comeback kind of thing. Like, I could really imagine her. Laura Linney taking the piss out of herself, and Mark Ruffalo taking the piss out of himself as like a sellout, and her taking the piss out of herself as being like a serious actress, you know, quote unquote, you know. Yeah, I think I feel like there's a lot of fun you could have with that.
Yeah. No, that could be good.
Yeah, anything to add to that?
You can count on Marvel.
You can count on Marvel for the cash. There you go. Good, brilliant. See, that's something. Okay, are we ready to put this film to bed?
Thank the Lord.
Okay, look, it was a swing and a miss. Sometimes that happens, you know. Yeah. You've got to take it as it comes.
Well, anyway, so at this point we would normally cut to our Patreon call-in section where they pitch their sequel ideas for this film. But because John's picked a film that nobody seems to have heard of,
stop kicking it, Harry. It's already dead.
We've got nothing this week. But luckily, you've got some...
I have some esteemed listener submissions from people who have taste and understand real cinema. Yeah.
Yes.
So I will share those with you now. So Rob Farnham said, "You can count me out."
There we go.
Maybe he's just not seen the film.
Yeah. I'm with him.
Yeah. Ben Stevens said, "You can count on Me Too." It's a movie about the rise of the Me Too movement.
Okay. Yeah.
Ryan Clean
doesn't sound like he's seen it.
No, true. A lot of these are just puns, to be fair. Ryan Kleemer said, "You can count on You, Me, and Dupre." It's a bad rom-com.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, probably hasn't seen the original film.
Nope.
Julia Artemis Pinkham said, "You can count on me, Cap." I guess that's Marvel MCU Captain America. Did Cap and Hulk have many interactions?
Yeah, but like, what do you mean you can count on me, Cap?
Like, you can count on me, Cap. Captain Marvel, isn't his nickname Cap?
His name's Captain America.
Sorry, Captain America. Is his nickname Cap?
Yeah, but I just don't really know whether. Okay.
No, okay, fine. Well, that was something. Tim Morgan said, "You can count down on me." After Rachel Riley, the host of Countdown, snaps and expresses why she really voted for Brexit, the main characters replace her on Countdown and, I don't know, learn some stuff about arithmetic? Question mark? Okay, I feel like none of these people have actually watched this movie.
They haven't, have they, John?
I've not seen a single one yet that sounds like they've watched the movie.
No.
Marcus, we'll carry on. Marcus McGahey said, "Really? You can count on me. The rise of Abacus Man." So you can
counting again, yeah, great.
Over on Twitter, maybe Twitter's...
Sorry.
So smug right now. Mike and Oscar at MM and Oscar said, "Guessing you'd probably reverse the roles." Ha ha! He's seen it. Guessing you'd probably reverse the roles. He's stable and situated in a healthy town, job and home. She's going to do the nomad thing. Is this sequel Nomadland? Has Laura Linney become the nomad from Nomadland? Has she become, what's her
Frances
name?
McDormand.
Frances McDormand? Could be. Could be, yeah.
Sure. I mean, why not just make this film worse? Go on, do it.
Sure. Fritz and Oscars, Fritz and the Oscars, said she goes to his hometown as he has died in a car crash. Bleak. While there, she discovers that he faked his death. Less bleak. To escape from his financial problems. It then becomes a road trip in which they escape from a bunch of criminals, during which they rebond and learn a lot about each other.
Sure.
So I guess the short version of that is Mark Ruffalo and Laura Linney on a road trip together.
Yep.
Which is a good time.
Yeah, maybe.
So that's our last sequel, which, although we did get a reply from esteemed New York Times journalist Janet Maslin. She's the film critic for the New York Times. She's very well known in critic circles. This is a big get for us, Harry. Trust me.
Are you making this up?
No, it's true. It's true.
Okay.
She replied to my tweet and she said, I was lucky enough to be on the Sundance 2000 jury, the Sundance Film Festival.
Yeah.
You can count on me.
Wait, so it's her fault? Oh, my God.
She says, she continues, you can count on me was the favourite to win that year, but it had a close competitor. We decided it wasn't fair to award either one film above the other, so Karen Kurosama's Girl Fight shared the top prize with You Can Count on Me. Both films were debut films from the directors that year.
All right.
So what that tells me is that next week we should do Girl Fight, because if it's anything like as good as You Can Count on Me, it's a winner. So
I am sold by the title, though.
Girl Fight.
Girl Fight.
Sure.
I've got to say, I am interested to know what that is.
Mhm.
So now that film's on the short list, but I will need to do my research first.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, anyway, regardless, thank you, Janet, for writing in anyway. It's a deep honour to have you on the podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for taking the time to share your experiences. And I, for one, am very pleased that you awarded this film the best film of the year, even if some among us don't agree.
Wait, she said that she was just part of the
jury, but she was
part of the. Do you know if she was voting for it or against it?
She said that she wanted to split it between these two films, so it sounds like she, yeah.
Okay, well, I guess you know which podcast host you prefer.
Mm-hmm. So thank you, everybody, for those sequel ideas. We ask for your listener submissions every week, a few days before we record, by putting posts out on Facebook and Twitter where you can post your ideas. So make sure you like and follow our pages if you don't want to miss out. To listen to more episodes of Beyond the Box Set, you can subscribe and browse our back catalogue on any podcasting platform, including Apple, Spotify, Google Play, and many others, all of which you can also leave a 5-star review if you wish. It really helps us to attract new listeners. You can also support us on Patreon, which is exclusively for the people who would rate us more than 5 stars if they could. You can access all of our bonus features, including being part of our live call-ins, bonus episodes, dedicated 30-second ad slot, and much more. All the links.
Did you delete the bit of text that says "Don't ad lib"?
I started and I lost track of my own. I lost track of my ad libbing.
Never learn, do you?
I'm sorry, I don't. You can find all of those links in the description below or at beyondtheboxset.com.
Mm-hmm.
And next week, Harry, clearly I've set a very high bar.
Yes.
How are you going to top it?
Okay, well, because this Oscar season is turning out to just be a massive downer.
Mm-hmm.
And we've just had to watch this film as well, which just adds to it.
Sure. Okay. Well, I'm sorry.
Why?
I'm sorry.
So I thought I'd go with the most entertaining film that I could think of.
Okay.
Which is, to be honest, that's generally my rule most weeks.
Sure.
Just go for the most entertaining film that I can think of.
Mm-hmm.
But next week we are going to be doing Con Air.
Okay, I'm excited for that.
See, I told you you'd like it.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good pick. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it once, many years ago, and I had also seen The Bodyguard once and Dreamgirls once, many years ago, and they didn't turn out so well.
True,
But
this could go either way.
I have more confidence in this one.
Okay,
I feel.
What a turn from You Can Count on Me to Con Air.
Yeah,
that is a heel turn.
Yeah. So if all goes to plan, this is the sort of film that I want to be watching.
Okay.
So think of something to follow it up.
Okay, no, I will. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, join us next week for Con Air.
See you next week, followed by my next pick, Roma.
Yeah. All right, thank you everybody for listening. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
I've never been so bored in my whole life.